You know, there are a lot of guys who will buy mentorships, courses, they'll watch endless amounts of self-improvement YouTube videos, they'll try to find all the information needed, and they'll have the information. But the biggest problem that I've noticed is that they just stay the same. Nothing ends up changing. They get all this information and nothing changes. And then there's some guys, I would say the top 1%, they end up getting the least amount of information and get the greatest amount of results. And you may be wondering, okay, well, what's the difference? And I'll be real with you. I was one of those guys that would buy all kinds of different programs, get into all kinds of mentorships, talk to a bunch of different people, consume information, binge watch YouTube videos. And I'll get so frustrated because I would never, ever hit the goals that I would want. Every time I would put in every single ounce of effort, it would change for a little bit. And then I would go right back to the BS that I had before. And I always try to figure out why, Martel, why do you keep staying in the same place? You literally will elevate and then you'll bounce right back to baseline. Every time, it doesn't matter. If it was in anything, making money, starting a business, maybe it was fitness, maybe it was whatever, I would always feel like I was stuck. I would always feel like, okay, I made some progress because of this new information, but I went right back to that level. And some of you may be feeling that right now, right? I don't know if that's you watching, but if you felt like you can't make progress and you can't become this unrecognizable person, you can't make this big transformation as much as you've tried, as many self-improvement YouTube videos that you've watched, I'm going to tell you there's one reason why, and it's what I've analyzed. When I was starting to figure out, okay, what's the common thread around all of these successful people that I want to emulate or that I admire, that I see doing big things, I walked back into like their entire lifehood, their entire lifeline. I wanted to see like, where did that change happen? When did that occur? Right? Guys who were super jacked, that when I was in my bodybuilding phase or in my getting jacked phase, I wanted to get to their level. And I was like, man, I'm doing the same workouts they're doing. I'm doing all the same stuff that they're doing, but I'm not getting any results. And you may be thinking the same thing. You're watching all these guys doing all of these things and you're copying them to a T, to an exact T, and you're still not getting results, at least the results that you want. And the number one reason why that occurs is because of identity. That's the number one formula to getting everything that you want becoming unrecognizable in a short period of time. It can literally quantum leap. When I say quantum leap, I mean it can literally jump the timeline of success for you and make it a fraction of a time to get to where you need to be with a shift in your identity. Because what a lot of men don't realize, and what I didn't realize before, is your identity makes up exactly the results that you get out of life. The reality, everything that you see around you, all of the results that you have are a response to the identity that you hold. Right? And a lot of us, we were given identities from birth, from society, from life, from everything. We were given these identities. And we didn't understand that, one, these identities are moldable, which means you can change them at any point in time. This is what, like, rich kids understand this stuff intuitively. They know. Their parents probably explain this to them, or maybe they don't know, but they do it instinctively, right? You see cosplay a lot. You see people like wearing costumes and all that type of stuff. You see a lot of people who are interested in watching movies and things like that. It's because they understand this idea of identity. And when you realize that you can shift your identity to become the person that actually embodies and has the results that you want, that's when everything changes and you start moving at light speed. Because when I started understanding identity shifting, and fortunately I learned this a little bit earlier, so I was able to see some big successes early, that's what allowed for me to go start a tech company and be the CEO of a tech company at 24 years old, I believe, 24, 25. I was able to become a CEO of a tech company and literally raise money without having any, I had some knowledge, but I didn't know the tactics. I didn't know all the steps. I didn't read every single book about startups. I didn't read every single book about pitching. But because I was able to look at tech CEOs and startup founders that were able to raise money, look at their habits, look at their thoughts, understand their mindset through watching interviews, understanding how they move through their day, right? Understanding what a CEO schedule should look like, right? Understanding All of that stuff. What beliefs should CEOs have about themselves? Self-belief, right? What thoughts should be going through your head, right? As a CEO, what are your thoughts? What should they be? How should your worldview look like? Because it's very different. Your worldview has to change in a way that benefits you for the new identity that you have, right? So I'm looking at all of these different things and I'm analyzing how do they walk? How do they talk? And I would implement all of those things in that moment. The moment that I realized all these things, I would easily change. And once I made that change, I became the tech CEO. I was in these pitch meetings and people were like, bro, how do you pitch like this? But what they didn't know was I was embodying the identity that gave me the results that I wanted, which meant I was able to raise money far faster, raise more money than I possibly could even imagine. I was able to lead people the way that I needed to lead them successfully because I embodied the tech CEO identity. It was the same with getting jacked. I wanted to look like, what was it? Arnold Schwarzenegger, or no, Ronnie Coleman. I wanted to look like Ronnie Coleman. So what did I do? I watched every single Ronnie Coleman interview. I watched every single Ronnie Coleman workout video to see how intense he was going, how he was talking about lightweight. I was saying the same thing. I was embodying the identity that would allow for me to get the results that I wanted. So I saw those results faster without having to cycle through a bunch of different workouts, a bunch of different programs like I was trying to do before. I just embodied the energy. I embodied the identity that got me to that point to where now I became unrecognizable. Same with the tech startup world. I became unrecognizable from the Martell that was working the 9-to-5, that didn't have any pitch skills, that didn't really understand much, that didn't really even know what tech startups were, to now being the guy who was seen as somebody who knows a lot about tech startups and who's able to raise money and who's prolific at it. Because I made that identity shift, which took me like this. It took me 1 second to do it. Just to change my thought pattern, change my beliefs, change the emotions that came from those beliefs, and then change the actions that it took for me to get to that identity that I was looking for. I worked backwards, right? And so it's the same for you. If you're a man who wants to be unrecognizable, if you want to learn new skills, it's not about buying the next course. It's not about the new information, the new guru that pops up that gives you a new business model. It's not about the new self-improvement YouTuber that feeds you the same shallow bullshit that all of them are preaching right now. Cold showers, detox, all this shit. I'm not going to say they don't work. They work with the right identity. And if you're not the right identity, if you're not becoming the person in that present moment of that person that you want to be, if you're not becoming that person, there's no way, there is no possible way that you're going to be able to actually get the results that you're looking for. So what are the steps? I kind of explained them to you earlier, but I'll tell you, what are the steps? The steps are find the person or the idea or the archetype, whatever that looks like. Find somebody, whether it's in a movie. You can go watch movies are really good for projecting what identities you want to be able to take. Find that person and start to understand, start to deconstruct how they move, how they operate, how they think. Start watching interviews with that person. Start watching, if it's a movie character, maybe you want to be Scarface. Watch a bunch of watch Scarface. Watch how he moves. Watch all of that and understand how that works. Become that person. Start to figure out the habits. What does he do in movies? Well, if you want to be Scarface, he's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Maybe you got to start liking guns and you got to start liking all that. Again, you might be saying, well, Martell, that's not authentic. What you have to understand is life is not authentic at all. That's going to break this shit down for you. Authentic is just being aligned with your actions and your identity. That's all authenticity is. Authenticity isn't you staying the same forever. That's what a lot of people don't understand about authenticity. That shit's not authenticity. That's just being stupid. Authenticity is finding the right identity that aligns with your goals and then aligning the actions that go with your identity. Why you might say somebody, a specific YouTuber or somebody's not authentic is because what they say is not what they do behind closed doors. And you can tell by the way that they look. You can tell by the way that they speak. You can tell by the way that they shift all of the fucking time. Their beliefs and all that because they don't have an identity. So it's not authentic. When you align your identity with your actions and your words, that's authenticity at its finest. Now life moves. Life flows exactly how you need to flow. Synchronicities happen left and right, which means the right things happen at the right times, just like that. But you got to be able to synchronize all of that and first see the identity that you want from somebody else, if that's the case. If nobody has that yet, great. Write it down. Write down the thoughts. Write down the beliefs. Write down the emotions. Write down the actions and the habits that identity needs to have. You want to get jacked? You have to think like a guy who's jacked. You have to have thoughts like a guy who's jacked. You have to have beliefs like a guy who's jacked. You have to have emotions like a guy who's jacked. You have to have actions like a guy who's jacked. Going to the gym every single day. Saying no to bullshit when you go out to eat places. Being hyper vigilant with foods. Understanding your macros, understanding your caloric intake. That's what's going to make you jacked. Not the fucking tactics. Not the new celebrity workout. That's what it takes. You want to get rich? Okay, I would say go read autobiographies of rich people. And start to understand what their thoughts were. Understand what their beliefs were. Their mental models. Understand what their emotions were when things went bad. Did they start to get negative, or were they aspirational? Were they always positive? Were they always optimistic? Were they pessimists? Right? And then understand their actions. What did they do every single day to get there? Biographies are a fucking cheat code. You want to look at that. If you want to get rich, read a biography of somebody who's rich. You want to be successful, read an autobiography or watch an interview, a life interview of somebody that's already successful where you want to be, and implement all of those things that I just mentioned, that framework. Because here's the thing, the difference between you and where you want to be is an identity gap. And you need to close that identity gap, and it can be closed fast by changing those attributes of the desired identity that you want. You close that stuff fast and you'll start to see that all of the results that you wanted start lining up and going straight to you. That's all it is. It's all about closing the identity gap. That's what makes you unrecognizable. And you may be wondering, well, Martel, when I become unrecognizable, what about my friends? Your friends identify with your current identity. When you shift it and you go somewhere else and you do it that fast, it triggers something in their brain to try to pull you back to your original identity. Now you want to be able to shut that shit down. Now you want to stay firm in that identity. Don't move. You have to align with it. All right? This is how you become unrecognizable. This is how you start to achieve things that people thought would take forever that take you a fraction of the time. I did this. I did this with YouTube. I did this with tech. I did this with fitness. I did this with other businesses, such as I started a lead gen agency with some friends. I had no idea what agency work was. But I started looking at agency owners and how they moved and how they operated. I started understanding exactly what my beliefs need to be. I started understanding exactly what my thoughts need to be every day. And boom, I have it. It didn't come overnight, but the identity came overnight. That's the one thing you can change right now. And you can just start hammering in thoughts, beliefs, emotions, actions every single day. And you maximize that and you become the best version of you. That's how you do it. And I'm so passionate about this that even my multidimensional academy, I'm shifting it now. I'm rebranding it and I'm making it group coaching. I want to help guys accelerate and shift their identity and reach. I don't care what goal you give me. If it's making money, if it's getting in shape, if it's getting beautiful women, it's all the same identity gap framework, right? So I'm opening that up, and I'm also going to give you a free identity gap protocol that you can do for yourself. All right. If you don't want to go through working with me to be able to do it with a bunch of other guys and be held accountable for that, and you just want to be on your own and you want something for free, join my Telegram below. And I will post the identity gap protocol in there once I drop it. I should drop. I'm not going to tell you the date, because then you're just going to join on the date. No, join now, because I could drop it now, or I could drop it in a few days. Who knows? But that might be one of the things that will change your entire life if you commit to it. If you want more help after that, you can work with me in my program to be able to level your identity up to hit your goals. This is what a lot of those self-improvement guys are not teaching. This is what, if you see all successful people, this is what they did. They shifted their identity. That was the red fucking pill. The red pill is shifting your identity. The red pill is not cold showering. The red pill is not sexual market value. That's not the fucking red pill. The red pill is your fucking identity. That's what's being manipulated. That's what's being robbed. That's what's being muffled. That's keeping you where you're at. And once you can master identity shifting, oh boy, I had to figure out what exactly the problem was. When I work with all these people, I would have some clients, they would be up there, they would get shit done, and they all had very similar information, just tweaked based on what they wanted to do, whether it was personal branding, whether it was fitness, whatever that was. And what I realized was the clients that excelled the most shifted their identity to being the person who even deserved the results that they were looking for. They wanted to look like an athlete? Okay, they became an athlete. They took the athlete's thoughts. They took the athlete's mentality. They took the athlete's beliefs. They took the athlete's emotions. They took the athlete's actions. The guys who failed, the guys who didn't do well, you know what they did? They stayed the fucking same. That's the difference. They stayed exactly in that same identity. And no matter what tactics, what direction I gave them, they always remained the fucking same. No change. They had the best workouts. They had the best meal plans. They had the best content strategies. They still couldn't implement it. They still couldn't implement the actions because their current identity that they were so stuck on remained with the same actions of that identity, which meant not putting out content every day, not staying on your diet every day, not going to the gym 3 or 4 days a week. I know it's crazy. You can't go to the gym 3 or 4 days a week. They make excuses. Again, thoughts that would come in that they would accept from their old identity. Boom. No, you don't need to do this. No, you're lazy. Oh, you're tired. Oh, you're this, you're that. Then you believe that shit. Then you start having the emotion of laziness. And then from there, you start not doing shit. You see how that thought loop works on identity? You see how thought loops and identities go together? Now, when you shift it and you go, okay, I want to be an athlete. Okay, well, what are your thoughts? Oh, I need to train today. Oh, I need to make sure I'm eating clean because my body's like a Ferrari. And if my body's like a Ferrari, you believe it, right? Yes, my body is a Ferrari. Boom, your emotion. You get prideful. You have a sense of ego, which is good. Action. Now you say no to all the bullshit when you go to parties and people want you to drink your ass off or people want you to eat bullshit. You say no because your identity doesn't align with that action. I can give you guys examples everywhere of this entire framework, which you will have for free in my Telegram. I will drop this shit for the guys who are committed. So I appreciate you on this rant and I hope you learned something. I hope you took action steps. The problem is your fucking identity. We're in an identity crisis right now. And what I mean by that is society. When you see economic collapse, what do you think that is? That's identity collapse. It's all engineered to make you feel helpless, to make you feel like you need to rely on them to be able to do what you need to do, when in reality, you need to rely on yourself and forge your fucking identity. That's it. Whatever it is that you want to do, the only thing that's keeping you stuck, the only reason you keep hitting this fucking ceiling and bouncing back, keep hitting this ceiling, is your fucking identity. The reason you're broke is because of your fucking identity. The reason why you only attract hoes and you don't attract beautiful women who are wholesome, that are submissive to you, is your fucking identity. If you identify as the person who attracts the hoes, they're going to be the people who come to you. If you identify as the guy who attracts feminine, masculine women, AKA you have a feminine identity because all dating is polarity, you're going to have the thoughts that lead to beliefs, that lead to emotions, that lead to actions, that then attract masculine women. And your life will go to shit. That's the reality of the game. I literally just gave you guys the fucking blueprint. I gave you the blue, and I will keep talking about this. If you want to know more about identity shifting, identity gaps, going deep dives into this, let me know, because this has everything to do with everything that I've told you on the polls. It's all about economic collapse that's happening right now. It's all a war on your fucking identity as a man. All of it. Spiritual warfare is a war of identity. Your identity is your soul. Your soul. That's what soul alignment, identity alignment. It's the same shit. Your health is all about your identity. If you identify as somebody who is a fat slob, you are going to be a fat slob and you're going to be in the hospital. It's all related. I'm hyped, man. I'm fucking hyped, dog. I appreciate y'all, though. Hope this was valuable. Like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend who needs it. I'm going to catch you guys on the next powerful video.